everyone and welcome to today's video where I'll be showing you 10 of the most common chess tactics which will help you win most of your games. So without further ado, let's jump right into the video. First up, we have a fork. Now a fork is where you'll have one piece attacking two pieces, maybe with check and maybe also with not check, but they're usually done with knights and they will help you win a lot of material. For example, in this position, we could play knight d5 check, just like this. And after this, wherever the king moves, we will play knight takes queen on e7, and when the king takes back, we will take the pawn on b5 and be totally winning. Now you may be wondering whether this can be done with only two pieces, three pieces. Well, it turns out if you go to the next chapter, we can see that knight d5 is a royal fork, and this is with three pieces, just like this. And wherever the king moves, we will take the queen, and this is also totally winning. So this can also be done with three pieces and even four pieces, but four pieces is extremely rare. So I showed you the best fork, which is called the royal fork. The next trap I'll be showing you is something called a pin. Now, these tactics have two types. First of all, there are relative pins and there are also absolute pins. The ones I will be showing you are absolute pins, and these are the strongest types of pins. Now, in this position, we can actually do an absolute pin. See if you can find the move. The move is bishop e4. Now, after bishop e4, the queen is actually tied down to the king because the queen cannot move. Because if the queen was to move, we would simply take the king. Now after this, black's best move is to simply take our bishop and sacrifice their queen, and after this, what would happen is we would just checkmate with a king and a rook and keep it very, very simple. The next tactic we will be looking at is something called a skewer. Now a skewer is where a higher valued piece has to move out the way of the defense of a lower valued piece. For example, in this position we could play rook f1 check. Now after this, the higher valued piece, in this case the king, would have to move out the way for the rook behind it, clearing us for rook takes f8. Then we will simply checkmate with our king and rook and win the game. After this, we have my personal favourite tactic, which is called a discovered attack. In some cases, a discovered check. For example, in this position, we could play the move bishop b7 check, releasing our rook on f2 to give a check on the king on f7. Now after this, the king must move somewhere, and for example they'll move to e8, and after this we will simply capture white's queen because of the discovered check, releasing our rook to give a check on the king and also attacking the queen with our bishop. And after this, black could play something like rook g1, we will block with a rook f1, and after this we are up two pieces, one of them being a rook and one of them being a minor piece, the bishop, and here we are totally winning the game. Another example of a discovered check or a discovered attack could be something like this, which actually leads to checkmate, so these are very, very important to know, of course. For example, in this position we could play the lovely move knight takes d6, and after king d8 we would play queen c8 checkmate. These are very, very important to know, and these can also be trained in puzzles and things like that, and these will help you win your games massively. Now, in this position, what would you play? Maybe you'd say something like takes. Well, turns out you'd actually be wrong, because the move you'd actually want to play in this position would be the lovely deflection tactic called knight f1 check. Now here, white would have two options. For example, they could just simply move their queen, and here we would simply just take their queen and be winning the game totally. However, after knight f1 check, white may decide to just capture our knight, and after this we would take their queen. Now this is called a deflection tactic for an obvious reason. This would be because we forced white's rook, which was in defense of white's queen, to capture our knight, moving their rook to release the defense on white's queen, allowing us to capture white's queen. This is an extremely strong tactic which can be used in a lot of games, so I suggest that you learn this and you can use puzzles and more things like that, or even analyze your games to help you really pick up on this tactic. Following this, we have a brutal checkmate, which is actually by way of a tactic called attraction. This comes after something like queen takes g8, sacrificing the queen, forcing the king to come over to g8. Now after this, can we lure the king anywhere else? Yes, we can, with something like rook h8, forcing the king to come to h8. And then after this, we can combine the tactics that we learned earlier with this tactic and play the discovered check, bishop f7 check, checkmate. That is really cool. With this tactic, I'd like you to just look at the position and think about what you'd play in this position as white. Now, you may be thinking that you might just want to promote to a queen and be winning. You are right. However, there is a much quicker way to win this game, and this comes after pawn promotion into knight fork. And this is so rare, but can be so effective, because your opponents may sometimes just not even notice that this can happen. And after the king moves, we will simply take the queen and be totally winning. So this is combining promotion, which was obviously just a rule of chess, and also the first tactic which we learned in this video called a fork. And this is extremely strong, and please try and use this because it is so satisfying. The next tactic we'll be looking at is something called a Zen Zuk, which actually means in between move in German, and you'll see why in just a second. So look at this position and think about what you would like to play. Some of you would say rook takes a1, free queen, right? Or actually after this, black can simply capture our queen on e6 with rook takes e6 and be up an exchange, as they have a rook for our minor piece, which is our knight. However, in this position, we can actually play a Zen Zuk by way of queen takes e8, sacrificing our queen. And after this, black would have to capture our queen back, seeing as it's with check. And after this, we can just take their queen on a1 and have our pawn, rook, and knight for their rook. How cool is that? That's just totally winning. And last, but certainly not least, we have Zugzwang, which is also another German word, and this is an extremely famous puzzle, so there's no way better to illustrate this. In this position, we can put black in Zugzwang by playing the move rook a6. Now black here has two options. They can either move their bishop or take our rook. So if they move their bishop, we will simply take on a7 with checkmate. And in this position, if black decides to take our rook on a6, we will play the beautiful move b7, smothered checkmate with a pawn in the corner of the board on a8. This is an extremely cool puzzle and actually an extremely cool tactic which is called Zugzwang. I highly recommend you delve deeper into this tactic and learn how to use this in endgames, because this is when they become the most important. That's it for today. Thank you so much everyone for watching. If you did enjoy the content, do let me know down in the comments, and if you really did enjoy the content, please do leave a sub, as that helps the channel massively. Thank you so much everyone for watching, and go win lots and lots of games with these tactics. Bye bye.